Hey everybody, I'm making another video. Hopefully this will be the last one before my type is determined. Champagne Dad recommended that I have better lighting while I'm doing this. I'm using a different camera this time. It seems somewhat more grainy, but the lighting should be better, and I think you have better vision of my eyes and their movements, which was what was problematic last time, because couldn't determine the perceptive functions. So at the moment, I'm pretty sure introverted thinking is the lead function, 99% sure. And the question is, what follows? Extroverted sensing or extroverted intuition? And I thought it would be extroverted intuition. Started reading a bit more, started doubting. Yesterday I met with someone who has extroverted intuition as the lead, and I could not keep up the rate at which associations were made, and the way they were made, the constant connections on the spot was too much for me. So I constantly felt the need to retreat into myself, and to try to push this person away from making connections, so that my flow of thought, the direction I was going, could continue, which could be introverted thinking needing to take a break and reassess everything. But I imagine talking with someone with extroverted intuition, should extroverted intuition be my secondary function, it would not be too hard, even in a case where it's very strong, like this person's, to play along. And I had difficulty, so I started reassessing everything, and perhaps I misunderstood the way the abstraction happens, and perhaps it's not an on-the-moment thing, but referential to a worldview that's already created. So hopefully with this video there's a more definite impression for me, and for you guys especially, to figure out what type is. So with that long introduction, I guess I can start answering questions. So the first question: are you old-fashioned? Depends how you define old-fashioned. It would differ from place to place and time to time. Perhaps it's not something I identify with. It's not a way I think of myself, really. But others seem to have the impression I am. So going by social standards, the fact that digital technology is not as relevant or as dominating a presence in my life, though it's mostly by my own initiative. It's mostly plays the same role as books. I mostly use it for reading, and occasionally to send messages, but otherwise it's imposed from outside, as it were, such as for school or work, or other people needing to connect to me through it rather than me seeking to connect. And that means I would much rather have regular face-to-face interaction with a smaller group of people too. Then there's also my interest in history, which gives you a certain aura, I guess, that's less engaged with the present and therefore perhaps older feeling. And then there's probably that introverted intuition, which slows everything down and makes it older looking. So going by social impression, I suppose so, but it's not really something I identify with. Next one is what's your favorite Armageddon by? I've answered that one in the previous one, so I'll skip it. Yay, shorter video. Next, what's the biggest turnoff in a man or woman? I presume this means if I'm attracted to them in some way. I would guess callousness and narcissism, which kind of go hand in hand. I can take it up to a point, but where there's no concern for others and a grandiose sense of self-importance, even if one is exceptional, it becomes repulsive, or I lose interest. So callousness and I forgot the other one. Callousness and narcissism would be the biggest turnoffs in a woman, I guess. If you're a type of animal, what would you be and why? Oh, there's a lot of choices, huh? Maybe a bird of some sort. Yeah. A raven or something. Ravens look cool. I think it would be fun to be able to fly around, and you're not as fragile as a flying insect. So some sort of bird. Ravens look cool, so I'd go with the raven. Yeah. And finally, are you a religious person? Not so much anymore. I grew up in a religious Christian, primarily Catholic family. Relatively religious. I mean, there's definitely more religious people. As I got older, I still had an interest in religion, which shifted from an acceptance of culturally imposed mores and ideas upon me to a fascination with religious thought and religious sentiment, attempts to connect to a divine entity or realm. The process by which you do that became very interesting, and its general effects on society. But as I got more and more into it and developed knowledge of it, I noticed I was not having the same experience as the religious fellows I was reading about. And I had not discovered, for example, with monotheistic or theistic religions in general, any deities. I had not had a direct personal experience of it. I also developed a bigger interest in life for its own sake rather than for an afterlife. Nietzsche put it as being true to the earth, with the idea that we do not know this other realm. I personally don't know of any other realm, and that centering our life around it is a waste of life when it could be lived more fully for itself. So right now I'm transitioning from a personal rather than intellectual, just purely intellectual interest in religion, to a more intellectual interest that is less personal, insofar as more personally I am delving more into life as it is rather than life directed towards some other goal. So I'm not very religious, but I have a grand interest in religions and religious thinking and practices. So those are my answers to the questions. Hopefully you guys have a consensus on my type. I'm thinking I might have changed my mind again, but we'll see. what you guys say. I'll think it through some more, do some more reading, some more, and figure it out. So thank you very much. All the best.